The inverse of a square root operation is the square operation. Here is an equation. The square root of n equals 5. Here the variable is underneath the operation of a square root. And the way that we can undo that, or the inverse to remove a square root operation, is to square it. So you can see here that if you square a square root, then whatever was inside the square root gets to come out all alone. And if it was just a variable to begin with, then you're solved already. Here is our if-then statement. Let's read. If the variable is inside the square root operation, then use the square operation to solve for the variable. Let's take a look at another example. Here, the variable is underneath the square root operation, but the variable term also has a constant term also inside of the square root operation. We need to square the whole expression, and we square both sides because we keep our equation balanced. And then that whole expression gets to come out of the square root. Now we can start to solve it using our common equation solving methods, adding 4 to both sides, having the variable be isolated, and that equals the value that we calculate on the other side. And in this case, x equals 13. But the big idea here is that when we see an equation with a square root operation, we know that we have a way to get the information out of the square root by using the inverse, and that is the square operation. If the variable is inside the square root, then we use the square operation to solve for the variable, but it's more like we use the square operation to free everything inside of the square root so that we can then start to solve for the variable. Let's check for understanding. Which equation will need to use the square operation to solve for m? How do you know? A. The square root of m plus 1 equals 3, or B. m plus 1 equals 3. Equation blank will need to use the square operation to solve for m because A. Equation A will need to use the square operation to solve for m because the variable is inside the square root operation. Here's the variable, and you can see that it's inside the square root operation.